I think it's less than 1% of business owners or small business owners generate more than $1 million in a calendar year. And if you're a woman and a woman of color, those percentages go down lower and lower and lower. I think sometimes because I'm so used and just familiar with the amount of money my business generates, sometimes I can downsell or downplay the significance of it. And I think I also can forget the importance of other people being able to see an example of somebody who looks like them, who has come from shared cultural backgrounds and lived experiences them as like, y'all, if little Miss Bouge Ghetto can generate more than $4 million in sales, you can too. I was in my Stripe account earlier today and I realized that I have generated over $4 million in sales since I started my online coaching business back in 2017. And I was sitting there really thinking about how have I gotten here? What really positioned me to be able to generate so much money in sales? And I think even more importantly, how have I done it being profitable every single year that I've been in business? And I think that this is something that quite honestly, I had a little bit of insecurity around. Very often enough, we see people who are willing to be vulnerable and share their story online, talk about how they've lost revenue, how they've bounced back from having a poor performing month or a poor performing quarter or a poor performing year. And I was sitting there and I felt like such a cliche because when I look at my business growth since I left my corporate engineering job in 2017. I started the coaching business technically at the end of October of 2016, but went full-time in the business in 2017. And every year I've been in business, I've been profitable. I feel like I don't have like this comeback story to document and share my lessons learned. And I was sitting here thinking, well, Jay, you maybe not have a comeback story to share, but you definitely have been doing something over the past 5 years, going on 6 years now, that has positioned you to be profitable every single year that you've been in business. And that's what I want today's episode to be about. So I want to get into this because I'm trying to get better at pausing long enough when I'm in moments that are major milestones and being able to celebrate them and document the journey of what worked and what didn't. And I'm really trying to do that in this moment right now. When I saw that we process payments on 2 different payment gateways, we process payments on Stripe and we process payments through PayPal. And when I added up how much money we've made through both systems, today we've generated more than $4 million in sales. First, I wasn't going to do anything. I was like, all right, bet. $4 million, keep it pushing. Let's get in tomorrow. But I was like, Jerisha, no, go put some lipstick on, put on a little bit of concealer, go live and just share what you've done, because making less than 2% of small business owners generate more than $1 million in sales ever. I think it's less than 1% of business owners or small business owners generate more than $1 million in a calendar year. And if you're a woman and a woman of color, those percentages go down lower and lower and lower. I think sometimes because I'm so used and just familiar with the amount of money my business generates, sometimes I can downsell or downplay the significance of it. And I think I also can forget the importance of other people being able to see an example of somebody who looks like them, who has come from shared cultural backgrounds and lived experiences them as like, y'all, if little Miss Bouge Ghetto can generate more than $4 million in sales, you can too. Mixed girl from Detroit can generate more than $4 million in sales, you can too. So I just want this video to be a living testimony and to be a documentation of what's coming to mind, because not only have we generated more than $4 million in sales, like I said, we've been profitable every year since we've been in business. And less than 40% of small business owners ever become profitable. The fact that we've been profitable every year, there are some principles, some methodologies, I think a way of thinking that has allowed me to be profitable every year. And like I said, sometimes I feel bad because I will meet people or you're in conversation and it's like, what do you do when your revenue is tanked? What do you do when you've had a down month? And I'm like, I can't speak from experience around that. Not to say that I haven't had a down month, but I've never had a down year. Like every year we've been in business, we have grown. Since 2017, we've either doubled or tripled in revenue. And in this year, the time that I'm recording this is 2022. This will probably be the first year that we grow by like 30 to 50%. And that has been intentional. I've been intentionally slowing down my growth this year so that we can really stabilize our back end and stabilize our operations so that come 2023, we can go ham in a way that doesn't compromise client experience, client delivery, or client results. So one of the first things that I noticed as I was reflecting on like, how have we been profitable every year? In addition to how have we generated this much money in sales? I think one of the first principles that if you do not get a grip of this, I don't think that it is sustainable. I don't think that it's possible for you to sustain making money long-term. So write this down. You have to get really good at self management. That is something that I do not think enough of us publicly talk about, but that is a secret. It's not even a secret. That is a skill set that every successful business owner that I know possesses, the ability to manage themselves. When you transition from being a corporate professional or a 9 to 5 employee, I think many of us take for granted the structure of the work environment that we came from. And what I mean by that is when you work at a company that's been around for 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, many of us don't realize how much that structure that exists because of that corporate environment positions us to succeed in those spaces. Meaning there is somebody at that company, like the CEO of the company that you work for now or worked for before, set the vision of the direction of the organization. They established, and the executive team established what were the goals going to be for the next 5 years. Then what are the goals for the next year? What are the goals by quarter? Somebody in that organization decided, okay, these are all the roles and the functions that this company needs in order to fulfill those goals. Somebody in that company then decided, okay, these are the qualities, the culture, the values, the characteristic traits that we need to look for when hiring talent. And then somehow down the line, they end up hiring you. And your job is only to fulfill one role, one position, usually around one growth metric in order to help that business grow. In addition to that, you have a boss, and your boss's job is to help manage your performance against the company's objectives. That's just the operational hierarchy and like the organizational structure. I'm not even talking about somebody else dictates how much you get paid. There's a CFO and a whole financial department that makes sure that the business is still operating in a profitable manner for you to get your paycheck every week. Somebody else is processing payroll on your behalf. I feel like I'm exhausting this point, but I don't think many of us, when we step into being a small business owner, realize the nuances of what it takes to run a company. Most of us don't realize it. And it's just like, oh, I have a passion. I want to make money independently. I want to be my own boss. And then you get into this and it's like, hello, here's all the fine print that you never even paid attention to because it was never your responsibility to even be aware that it existed. That was somebody else's job at the company that you worked at. It was not yours. And then outside of like the operational structure and the hierarchy and the org chart, in addition, that company had procedures already in place. You had capital and resources available for you to deploy ideas. You were in a position at your old job where you could take a risk on something. Like you could afford to fail. Like quite honestly, you could afford to make a mistake. This whole quiet quitting, you could afford to quiet quit because you knew a paycheck was still going to come on Friday. Let's be honest. You can't quiet quit when you're a solopreneur. Well, you can, but that will impact your performance and it will absolutely impact how much money you take home at the end of the month. I say all that to say like self-management is one of the most important but under-communicated skill sets that we have to have as solopreneurs and as business owners. And what I mean by self-management, and write this down in your notebook, because when you decide to say that, hey, I'm going to step out of my 9 to 5 job. I'm going to step out of that version of security, that established structure and that ecosystem, and I'm going to decide to go create my own. You are inherently also signing up for, now I have to be responsible for every decision and decision I do not make on a day-to-day business. And that has a severe and heavy-weighted gravity impact on how much money I make at the end of the day. Because in business, you don't get paid off of how much time you put in. You get paid based off of how many clients you sell into your program. So it don't matter if you worked 40 hours last week. That don't mean to how much money you gonna make. There's no longer a direct correlation. So what I mean by self-management, and let me break this down. When I think about self-management and how being able to effectively manage myself has allowed me to build a sustainably profitable coaching business online since 2017, first and foremost is that we have to rewrite some truths that the system has taught us. In business, like I said, one of the first ways of self-management, you have to learn how to manage yourself purely based on results and based on output, and not manage yourself based off of time spent or effort given. If you can understand that one principle, you're already putting yourself ahead of competition and setting yourself up for success. Your success in business is dictated purely based off of output, results, outcomes that have been accomplished. Your success in business is not directly correlated to the amount of time you spent doing something. And I think that's one of the first ways that you have to think about managing yourself. You can't manage yourself based off of, well, how much time did I clock in today? Because you could be spending 8 hours a day doing busy work that leads to outcomes that are not driving revenue in the business. And many of us get caught in that trap. That's a principle of self-management is, am I managing myself based off of output, based off of results, or am I managing myself based off of how much time I spent doing something? Because they're not directly correlated anymore in business. So that's one of the first aspects of self-management. A second aspect of self-management is prioritization. When you think about prioritization, self-management requires radical honesty. I mean, brutal honesty. You have to be willing to hurt your own feelings because you're willing to tell yourself the truth rather than telling yourself what you want to hear that keeps you comfortable. I'm gonna just say it. Many of us are in a position that we're in right now because we're unwilling to be honest with ourselves about the situation, about the reality at hand. We keep telling ourselves what we want to believe, what we wish existed, versus being radically honest with ourselves about what is. I'm like, woo! And I'm saying this to you because I'm saying it to myself. Oftentimes, I've had to hurt my feelings, and I don't mean hurt my feelings in like a self-imposing, like damaging, harmful way, but just being honest with myself. Like, girl, you was on some bullshit last quarter. You are not being consistent. You are lacking discipline in this area. You are over compartmentalizing your emotions and you are avoiding uncomfortable situations. That's what I mean by being honest with myself, because if being honest with yourself allows you to have a moment of self-awareness, and that self-awareness is what will allow you to identify what the actual solution to your problem is so that you can go out and seek support where you need help, versus me saying, oh, I got it. I got to figure it out. I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. You don't have it figured out. You are not okay. Like, you need to go to therapy, girl. You need to start unraveling some stuff that happened from your past so that you can move forward. I can't keep lying and sweeping my trauma up under the rug anymore if I want to grow and succeed. So that's what I mean by self-management and regulation there, around being radically honest with yourself about where you are right now, because that honesty is what will allow you to create the opportunity to discover what your next step should be. That's the most advantageous step for the future version of yourself. So that was another thing about self-management. Another aspect of self-management is being able to prioritize. And what I mean by prioritization, I was literally on a coaching call with my clients in my legacy boardroom mastermind last week. And we spent 30 minutes on that call helping a client figure out how to prioritize all the things that she has going on right now. And I think the reality is that your to-do list, when you decide to start a business, will be never ending. If I look at my to-do list, there's like over 1,000 things on that to-do list. There's always going to be something to do. And I think that if your business is growing, there will always be problems to be fixed. It's your job to manage yourself to know which problem should I prioritize and fix first, because you cannot fix them all. And as long as you are growing, you will always be breaking something. There will always be something broken in the business at all times. And I think that's an aspect of self-management that I'm still learning how to accept, because I feel like in corporate America, I was only exposed to a small department. And within that small department, I was able to count all of the broken problems on two hands for the most part. We were like functioning in like more of like this isolated silo. So you were only exposed to the problems that were privy to your department or privy to your position. You weren't exposed to all the problems that existed in the entire company. So you didn't realize that on a daily basis, there were like hundreds of problems to be fixed at all times. But in business, now you're exposed to it all because you are every department in the beginning. You the sales department, you the marketing department, you the client success department, you the finance department, you the operations department, you the whole executive team, you your own board of directors. You have access to being able to see every problem that exists in business. So one of the things that you have to do when you are managing yourself is being able to prioritize, which problem do I need to fix right now? And which problem is the most important for the season of business I am in? Self-management also requires you to have an understanding of what season of business you are in right now, because understanding the season of business that you are in will help you properly prioritize which problems to fix first. Like, where we have incongruency is when people start trying to fix problems that, one, are not real, two, that you are making up, and three, fixing problems that are beyond the season of business that you are in right now. When you're making less than $1 million a year, or you're in your first 3-5 years of business, the only problems you need to be focused on solving are the problems that are real for you today, not the problems that you're trying to avoid in the future. And that's hard. It is hard, especially for us A-type perfectionists. For us, INDEPENDENT, they don't know about us. Like, for all of the individuals who are highly self-sufficient, overly independent, A-type perfectionists, and I know I'm talking to you because I'm talking to myself. We be like, bet. What's the problem that I got right now? But what are the next 3 problems that I can project are going to happen? And then I'm going to try to avoid all those problems from ever happening. So I'm going to fix all those problems before I even take the first step, so that when I do take my first step, it's perfect off rip. Is that the truth or is that the truth? I know I'm talking to somebody that might have served you in a season of your life, but that will be your downfall in business depending on the season that you are in. I have to constantly remind myself that, hey, Jay, you have a responsibility as the CEO of this company. Your responsibility, that fine print of being a CEO, your responsibility is to identify what season of business you are in and to properly prioritize the problem that have the most profitable output for you right now. Your job is not to be perfect. Your job is not to avoid the next 2, 3, 4 problems that you project or that you think that you're afraid of happening. That is not your job. So I have to constantly remind myself of my position on a regular basis. Self-management to me is probably one of the most crucial skill sets you have to develop if you want to build a profitable business, because the decisions that we make get rooted from how we manage ourselves. If you are doing a poor job managing yourself, that means you're doing a poor job with decision-making in the business. And if you're doing a poor job with decision making in the business, that matriculates and it spills over into everything that you do. So that's why I'm spending so much time on self-management. The last thing I'll say about self-management is that you have to get good at managing your energy. You won't break my soul. Beyonce taught us this. Sometimes we do not regulate our own emotions and we don't manage our energy and we end up breaking our own soul. We run ourselves to the ground. We overextend ourselves too often. We stay in emotional situations that are not supportive of our mental health or our mental well-being. We stay in partnerships or relationships or situationships that drain the living life out of us. And then you wonder why you don't have energy to show up. You wonder why you don't have the energetic capacity to make a decision. You wonder why you have decision fatigue and you ain't even stepped foot into your business today because you are not regulating your energy. You wonder why you are always tired, sluggish, feel like you're not motivated because you're not drinking enough water. When the last time you had a salad? When's the last time you had some vegetables, some fruit that grew from the earth that did not come out of a can? When I say energy management, when is the last time you've moved your body beyond walking from your bedroom to your home office? When's the last time you went outside and got some vitamin D? And I'm talking about the vitamin D that comes from the sun and from God, not from your little situationship from around the way. That's all I'm going to say. Let's keep it 100. So like energy management is so important because your energy is your primary fuel source to do everything in your business. If the energy that you have that is making the decisions, that is showing up on social media to create content, that is being the leader inside of your communities for your paid clients or for your team, if your energy is like whack, subpar, and drained, please tell me what the quality of the output is going to be. It's not going to be good. All I'm saying is self-management means that you are managing your energy. You got to get good at that. You have to pay attention to just the foundational, just the basics. What am I doing to fuel my body? The simple things that you could be doing. When I started doing these things, I became a better CEO. Move your body for 30 minutes every day. Literally just walk around the block. Take your dog on the scenic view, on the scenic walk. Please drink water. Just get something green. Eat something that grew from the earth at least once a day. That alone will put you ahead of the game. Outside of just fueling your body, then we have to start to regulate our emotions and manage our energy. You might need to go to therapy. You might need to read self-help books. You might need to do meditation. Whatever your self-care practices are, there needs to be a ritual and a routine around it. You got to be doing something. Even though I spent a lot of time on that, so much of my success in business has been because of how well I'm able to manage myself. And I'm not perfect at it. Nobody is. It's a continuous journey. But being able to manage yourself funnels and falls over into every single thing that we do. And if you don't have energy to show up, I mean, you might as well just go get the job, because running a business already is the biggest form of therapy and the biggest opportunity for healing that we get invited into. I think outside of marriage and probably parenthood, entrepreneurship really, it invites us into it. And if we're unwilling to do the healing work and unwilling to operate out of radical honesty, it makes everything else that we we do very, very difficult because you can't keep lying to yourself. That it bleeds over into so many things. That is what I'll say about self-management. Self-management is crucial, and there's so many components of self-management. The second thing that I did that has allowed me to be profitable every year I've been in business is to actually prioritize profit. Oftentimes, people are not profitable is because they haven't made the decision that they are going to do what's required to become profitable. Oftentimes, you are not profitable because you have not made the decision that you want to be profitable. And I don't just mean want to be, but that you are willing to do what's required to become profitable. Far too often, people are prioritizing their passion over profitability. And I ain't trying to have nobody drag me to church or send me no little hate mail in my DMs. If you have only been prioritizing your passions, but you have not been calibrating and aligning whether or not your passions even have potential for profit, that's where you went wrong. That is something that in the very beginning of my business, back in 2016, when I first started my business, I was like, man, I just want to help women accomplish their goals. That's what I had a passion for. I had a passion for helping women of color be able to climb the ranks, break through the glass ceilings, and accomplish their goals. The problem is sometimes we misconstrue our mission for what we need to be publicly marketing. You can have a mission. We all have a mission that is aligned with our passions. The mission is not the business objective. People mix up their mission with their business model. That's the best way that I can say it. Write that down. You have to understand the difference between your mission and your business model. And then you have to identify what is the best way to find alignment between those two things. Every passion that you have does not need to be monetized. I'm going to say that again. Every passion that you have does not need to be monetized. There are some gifts God gave you to give with grace to the world, to share freely with the world, to share freely with a small group of population, or to like full on go ham with after you have established yourself, after you've put yourself on your own 2 feet. There's some fault to the online industry because there's so much content and there's so much free resources about follow your passion, discover your passion. I think your passion is something that evolves as you become more mature in your season of life and in your season of business. I think that we do not necessarily only have one assignment. I really view us and view myself as a kingdom, as a child, as a trust fund baby of the kingdom. And when I am sent down from the kingdom on assignment, allowing God to use me as a vessel for whatever assignment he has for me in this season. So I think it's important for you to understand the difference and the disassociation between, is this just the mission of my company? Is this the mission that is fueling the energy and the decisions and the commitment to why I'm choosing to do this? Versus what is the business model that has the highest profitable opportunity based off the skill sets that I currently have? We have to understand that distinction. One of the biggest reasons why I feel like I have been able to grow such a highly profitable business year over year is I have prioritized profits over me prioritizing monetizing every one of my passions. So you have to understand what business is and how business works. Business is a system. Creating opportunities for transactions to take place is the only reason why businesses exist. We are exchanging currency, which is how we communicate value in America and globally at this stage of the world. And your business's job is to solve a real problem that somebody is willing to pay for. That is it. I think the better question that you can be asking yourself is not what am I passionate about? I want you to identify what you are passionate about. What is your mission? Because that mission can be the fuel source that keeps you going and keeps you committed to doing this thing. But then the better question that I want you to ask yourself is, what are the skill sets that I have and what problems and results do I know how to get based off the skill sets that I've already acquired? That is what I want you to think about more than anything else. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, if I want to build a profitable business, and I think that if you are somebody who started their business like I did, where I had no capital, I didn't have a loan from a bank, I didn't have no trust fund waiting for me, I didn't have no friends and family donating money to my cause, I don't have a business degree, all I had was what Jerisha had at that time. If you are similar to me, I did not have an existing audience, I did not have an email list built up of fans waiting for me to monetize and sell them something, I did not have relationships from other people who had large audiences where I could do partnerships. I ain't had none of that. I had one young thug. You're looking at it right now. That's all I had. And I had an iPhone, I had access to the internet, I had a MacBook. That is what I had. So if you are similar to me, you have to make a decision to say, okay, based off of the season that I'm in and based off the resources that I'm starting with, what is the best business model for me for this season, given the input and the constraints that I have? That's a question you really need to think about. And then from there, the thing that I think helped me grow so fast, and I say fast because getting to $1 million in revenue in less than 3 years is faster than most. It's non-typical. And getting to a place where we've done over $4 million in sales in a matter of 5 years, especially being a Black woman in America, it's not typical. But when you think about how I've been able to have that trajectory and how we've been able to be profitable every single year, just lean into what I'm saying right now. The thing that I identified is the same thing that I teach my clients. What is the most expensive thing that you can sell? And the most expensive thing that you can sell, basically the better way to ask that is, what is the most sophisticated problem I know how to solve? What is the most sophisticated problem that I currently know how to solve based off the skill sets that I already have? If you can answer that question, and then from there, package an offer that specifically solves that problem, because if you're solving a sophisticated problem, that means that it probably requires a level of specialization, and that specialization you've been able to get by way of the skill sets that you've already acquired. And if you can package that up, that means that you can charge a superior price point from your competitors, which inherently will allow you to be profitable faster. Because if you're able to come out of the gate selling somebody on a $3,000 offer, that means that you need less capital, you need a smaller audience, you need less people to say yes for you to make money. That is something that has allowed me to be profitable year over year because I prioritized a business model that focused on solving a more sophisticated problem that was in a more specialized and niche demographic at a more premium price point because of the return on investment that solving that problem produced. It's really simple. That part is not really complicated. I think the complexity comes in because it goes back to what I talked about in self-management. Many of us are not willing to be honest with ourselves, and especially women and people of color, we do this to ourselves over and over again. We will disqualify the skill sets that we already have and act as if they don't count because we will say, oh, that's not what I'm passionate about. You have to do what you have to do until you are in a position to do what you want to do. Yes, I understand that you might be passionate about empowering middle school girls in inner city communities. I get that. I'm passionate about it too. Is that the most profitable business model for the season of business that you're in? Probably not. Instead of trying to monetize off of middle school girls that are in inner city communities, how about you instead identify a skill set that you can solve a sophisticated problem around so that you can make more money, so that you can work less hours, so that you can go donate your time in those inner city communities to empower those middle school girls. How about you do that instead? I think sometimes we forget that having more money, what choices it gives us access to. Having more money gives us access to maybe buy back our time in different ways, to outsource the cleaning of our house, to outsource food prep, to hire caretakers for our children, to hire caretakers for our elderly parents. That gives us back more time for us to go do the things that we are passionate about, but maybe don't make sense to monetize at this season of business that you're in. And I think that's just something to think about. Like, too many people are technically creating nonprofit organizations, trying to package them under a for-profit LLC, wondering why they ain't making no money. The input variables don't make sense for the season of business that you are in, for what you need, for what is required. Like, it just don't make sense. So I think that's probably the second biggest thing, is that if you want to be profitable year over year, you need to prioritize making decisions that will lead to profitability. And that's what it boils down to. I get that you might be passionate. Understand that that might be the mission of why you're doing this. You have to then correlate what is the best business model for the mission that I have. So that's the second thing I'll say on how I've been able to grow so profitably and how you can too. Like, really identify what is the most sophisticated problem that I can solve based off the skill sets that I already have that will allow me to demand a premium price point to solve the problem. When you can calibrate those things, you can suck at sales, because if you're solving a specialized problem for a specific person, you don't have to be good at selling for them in order for them to buy it, because it's so niche. It's so specialized. Like, there's nobody else that can do it. So you don't have to even even be the best at sales. You don't even have to be the best at marketing. You don't have to have the biggest audience because you're addressing a problem that's sophisticated and that's specialized. There's not that many other options to even compare you against, which ends up meaning that you become one of one. And that's the position that you want to put yourself in earlier, if possible. Okay. That is something I'll say there. Prioritize profit. And if you're in any of my coaching programs, like if you're in leverage, if you're in my mastermind, boardroom mastermind legacy, this is the foundation of the principles and the philosophies that I teach in any of my paid programs. Because if you are somebody who is like me, y'all, we are aiming to get to the starting line. If your primary goal of building a business right now is to get out of debt, that means that your primary goal right now is to get to zero. Zero is the starting line. Like we over here thinking that we signed up to run a race when, baby girl, you are still in the parking lot. Like we barely have the track shoes on. We barely can afford that. We haven't even got to the track yet. We have the starting line. We are so far behind it. And let me not even compound the systematic issues that exist in this country. Let me not even compound the generational things that have been passed down to us. Let me not even compound how the system has been structured for it, because it wasn't designed for us to succeed in the first place. But when you are just trying to get to zero, you're just trying to get to the starting line. You're just trying to get out of the parking lot onto the track to where the little starting line is. You really keep that in context. So that means, what do I need to do to put myself in a position to even start running this race? And really putting yourself in a position to even start running this race, you need to commit to being ruthlessly unapologetic around building your personal net worth. And I don't mean, oh, I'm just trying to get wealthy. No, your personal net worth. I want to be specific on this. You need to be ruthlessly unapologetic about wanting to make more money and doing what's required to solve sophisticated problems so you can take the smoother path to generating more money. Everybody on here needs to be like, yes, I want to be a millionaire. Yes, I want to have a positive net worth. Yes, I want to make more money. And I don't give a damn what my cousin, Uncle Ray, Bebe from around the block, what the guy I'm dating, what my friends from high school have to say about it. I am here to secure the bag, period. You need to be ruthlessly unapologetic about that. I mean, full body commitment. I mean, not no, oh, it'd be nice. No, it is essential. It is imperative. It is a non-negotiable that I will build a positive net worth for myself. That is the level of energy and commitment that you need to have if you want to make this stuff work out. I mean, ruthlessly unapologetic. Next time somebody asks you what's your goals, is to figure out how I can make more. Anybody here who might be spiritually struggling with that, I invite you to write down on a piece of paper, what is all the good that you can do with having more money? And I'm not saying fall in love, idolize, worship money, but it is a resource. Having money is a resource. You want as much access to that resource as possible in this lifetime. And oftentimes you're not profitable because you are unwilling to be honest with yourself that you even want to make more money. Like oftentimes we're not making more money because we're afraid of what it means to have more of it. You don't trust yourself with having more money. You feel like you're going to end up like your cousins and like your family members. You don't want to blow it. So you're scared of having more than enough. You don't know what to do with it. Maybe you've always lived paycheck to paycheck. You don't even know what to do with the excess money. So you're like, F it. I don't even know what to do with this. I don't feel responsible enough to have more. So I'm not going to put myself in a position of abundance. There's all these things. Maybe in your church growing up, you were taught that having money was bad. Rich people were evil. I want you to start to get curious about the stories you've been telling yourself about money. And I want you to also give yourself the space to say, what is the good that I can do with having more? And the thing is, when you started so far behind the starting line, having more really ain't even that much. Like, really think about that. If somebody's like, yeah, I want to make $5,000 a month, that's $60,000 a year. That ain't even that much. And when I say it's not even that much, I'm saying that in context, but so much of the more that we desire to have really isn't even that much in comparison to like what exists out here. Like, really think about it. Like, you over here tripping it up with yourself about making an extra $1,000 a month. It's like, girl, I know people who pay $1,000 a month to have a Ford Focus because they got bad credit and they got to pay for car insurance in a high premium city. $1,000 a month for a Ford Focus don't make no sense. It's not even that much money. So all I'm saying is that let's start to normalize. And I'm not even saying that you have to shoot for having $1 million. These are 2 assignments that I want you guys to do, okay? And this is something that helped me. I remember in my very beginning, one of the first things I did back in 2017 is I actually figured out, what is my current net worth? Do you even know what your net worth is? I'm not asking you how much money you make in a year. what your salary is, but what is your net worth? And pull up your credit reports, print them bad boys out, open up a Google sheet, open up a spreadsheet, and actually calculate what is your personal net worth today. How much debt do you have? How many assets do you have? What liabilities do you have? How much cash do you have on hand? And figure out what your personal net worth is. So many people are trying to shoot for $1 million, girl. I'm just trying to get you to zero. And you might decide all debt isn't bad debt. So you might decide that, okay, I'm not going to prioritize paying off my student loans per se, but maybe I'm going to prioritize figuring out the way, instead of me spending that money to pay off my student loans, I'm going to spend that money I would have paid off my student loans with to invest in myself so that I can increase my earning potential to influence how much my personal net worth is. All debt isn't bad debt. And again, that could be a whole nother episode in and of itself, but I want you to sit down and actually calculate what your personal net worth is today. And I want you just to figure that out. That's the first step of radical honesty. It's hard for you to even prioritize your goals because you don't even know where your starting line is. So that's one assignment. And the other assignment I want you to do is to write down, what new options does having more money give you? What new choices can you make? What new options will be available for you? What is the good that you can do with having more money? Then you need to make a decision. Am I committed to making more? Am I committed to becoming the version of myself, becoming a different version of myself who is aligned with making more money? Am I willing to invest in myself and to develop myself, to hone my skill set so that I can learn how to be a person that knows how to generate more money? I could do a whole episode on this, probably each one of these topics independently. So I don't want to spend crazy amount of time on this, but I really hope that that is resonating, because too many of us, the reason why we're not building profitable businesses is because we haven't yet made the decision that that's what we want. Not just that this is what we want, but this is something that we are committed to doing. And then also from there, making the decision to say, okay, what is required? Who do I need to become? And what are the skill sets that I need to sharpen so that I can be a person that makes money? Many of us are people that just know how to do a job, but we have to learn, how do I become a person that is capable of making profit-driven decisions? That is different. That's a different dynamic. So the last thing I'll say that has really positioned me to be profitable every year, this kind of goes back to what I talked about, prioritization, but I've always prioritized client results over popularity. Always prioritize my client delivery over just enrolling new clients and scaling lead generation. And what I mean by that is I think oftentimes business owners, which is common in our space, you can get caught up in the rat race of like, I want to get more leads. How do I get more leads? How do I enroll more clients? And then you start to dilute your effort and you stop paying attention to the people who've already paid you. If you can have operational mastery around clients getting the result that was promised when they paid to enroll in your program, you will never have a lead flow issue. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to sustain the learning curve of that, to ride that wave and to sustain that learning curve of having operational mastery around client delivery. So much of my success has been because of the success of my clients and has been because of the success of the results that they have been able to get. And what I mean by that is I can speak with a higher level of conviction. I can market with a higher level of confidence because I know the predictability of my clients getting the result that I promise when they enroll in my program. 70 to 80% of my clients get a full return on investment within the first 90 days of being enrolled in my coaching program, Leverage, for the entire year. That is ridiculously high. I think there's like a 98% success rate of clients getting a full return on investment every year that they work with us. The average client sees a 3 to 5x return on investment every year that they work with us. Like, the results are inevitable because we've operationally designed the client experience to make it inevitable. The only way a client doesn't get a result is if they literally just choose not to log in, to not to show up, to not do anything. That is their choice. A client always has the choice to choose not to participate at any moment in time. You're a grown adult. It's a full choice that you have, but we have manufactured the client experience and the client delivery to guarantee client results if they follow the process. So I think that that is something that has led to my profitability, because not only are clients getting the result, but clients in turn want to continue working with us beyond the initial agreement that they signed up for. Clients will either choose to buy another program that we sell or would choose to upgrade into our mastermind. We focus on lifetime value over new client acquisition. And I think that that's a different mindset that most business owners don't adapt. untapped. And if you don't have a large audience or have a way to generate a high volume of new leads, you need to prioritize lifetime value. And you need to prioritize delivering on the promise that you sold people into when they enrolled, because that's where your reputation stands on. Like, that's how people perceive you. That's how people remember you. That's how referrals get generated or not generated. So I think that's like the last thing I'll say on this, but I hope that this helped. Over 4 million in sales. I've been profitable every single year that I've been in business. And I think those are some of the principles that have positioned me to have those types of results. Self-management, prioritization, actually committing to making more money and committing to the outcome of increasing my personal net worth, and really focusing on client results and client delivery and increasing lifetime value over new client acquisition and lead generation. And like I said, there's one aspect of today's, I'm just talking off the top of my head. Like, I noticed these numbers like today. If there's an aspect of what I talked about that you want me to go into deeper or to do an entire episode on, please just leave it in the comments and let me know, or send me a direct message on Instagram. So if you guys enjoyed today's episode, just want to say thank you for tuning in. If you need help in this arena, like if you want to build a more sustainably profitable coaching business, if you want to solve more sophisticated problems, if you want to charge more premium prices, get on my waitlist for leverage. You can visit jerishahawk.com/leverage to join the waitlist. We notify our waitlist first when we have applications open or when client spots become available. So just join that waitlist if that's something that you're interested in, and I will holla at y'all later. Bye, y'all. If you liked the video you just watched, click this one. You might like it even more. Go ahead, check it out.